Odyssey, Book 1. The Gods in Council, Athena's visit to Ithaca, the challenge from Telemachus to the suitors. Tell me, O Muse, of that ingenious hero who traveled far and wide after he had sacked the famous town of Troy. Many cities did he visit, and many were the nations with those whose manners and customs he was acquainted. Moreover, he suffered much by sea while trying to save his own life and bring his men safely home. But do what he might, he could not save his men, for they perished through their own sheer folly in eating the cattle of the sun god Hyperion. So the god prevented them from ever reaching home. Tell me, too, about all these things, O daughter of Zeus, from who whatsoever source you may know them. So now all who escaped death in battle or by shipwreck had got safely home, except Odysseus. And he, though he was longing to return to his wife and country, was detained by the goddess Calypso, who had got him into a large cave and wanted to marry him. But as years went by, there came a time when the gods settled that he should go home to Ithaca. Even then, however, when he was among his own people, his troubles were not yet over. Nevertheless, all the gods had now begun to pity him, except Poseidon, who still persecuted him without ceasing and would not let him get home. Now Poseidon had gone up to the Ethiopians, who were at world's end, and lay in two halves, the one looking west and the other east. He had gone there to accept a hecatomb of sheep and oxen, and was enjoying himself at his festival. But other gods met in the house of Olympian Zeus, and the seer of gods and men spoke first. At that moment he was thinking of Aegisthus, who had been killed by Agamemnon's son Orestes. So he had said to the other gods, See now how men lay blame upon us gods for what is after all nothing but their own folly. Look at Aegisthus. He must need to make love to Agamemnon's wife unrighteously and then kill Agamemnon. But though he knew it would be the death of him, for I sent Hermes to warn him not to do either of these things, inasmuch as Orestes would be sure to take his revenge when he grew up and wanted to return home. Hermes told him this in all goodwill, but he would not listen, and now he had paid for everything in full. Then Athena said, Father, son of Cronus, king of kings, it served Aegisthus right, and so it would anyone else who does as he did. But Aegisthus is neither here nor there. It is for Odysseus that my heart bleeds when I think of his sufferings in the lonely secret island, far away, poor man from all his friends. It is an island covered with forests, and in its very middle of the sea a goddess lives there, daughter of a magician Atlas, who looks after the bottom of the ocean and carries the great columns that keep heaven and earth asunder. This daughter Atlas had got hold of poor unhappy Odysseus, and keeps trying by every kind of blandishment to make him forget his home, so that he is tired of life and thinks of nothing but how he may once more see the smoke of his own chimneys. You say, take no heed of this, and yet when Odysseus was before Troy, did he not propitiate you with many a burnt sacrifice? Why then should you keep on being so angry with him? And Zeus said, My child, what are you talking about? How can I forget Odysseus when than whom there is no more capable man on earth, nor more liberal in all his offerings than the mortal gods that live in heaven? Bear in mind, however, that Poseidon is still furious with Odysseus for having blinded an eye of Polyphemus, king of the Cyclopses. Polyphemus is son to Poseidon by the nymph Osa, daughter to the sea king Orcus. Therefore, though he will not kill Odysseus outright, he torments him by preventing him from getting home. Still, let us lay our heads together and see how we can help him to return. Poseidon will then be pacified, for if we are all of a mind, he can hardly stand up against us. And Athena said, Father, son of Cronus, king of kings, if then the gods now mean that Odysseus should get home, we should first send Hermes to the Ogygian island to tell Calypso that we have made up our minds and that he is to return. In the meantime, I will go to Ithaca to put heart into Odysseus' son Telemachus. I will embolden him to call the Ogygians in assembly and speak out to the suitors of his mother Penelope, who persists in eating any number of his sheep and oxen. I will also conduct him to Sparta and to Pylos to see if he can hear anything about the return of his dear father, for this will make people speak well of him. So saying, she bound on her glittering golden sandals and perishable, which she can fly like a wind over a land or sea. She grasped the redoubtable bronze sphere, so stuffed and sturdy and strong, wherewith she closed the ranks of heroes who had displeased her, and down she darted from the topmost summits of Olympus, whereon forthwith she was in Ithaca at the gate of Odysseus' house, disguised as a visitor, Menetes, chief of the Taphians, and she held a bronze spear in her hand. There she found the lordly suitors seated on hides of the oxen which they had killed and eaten, and playing draughts in the front of the house. Men, servants, and pages were bustling about to wait upon them, some mixing wine with water in the mixing bowls, some cleaning down the tables of wet sponges and laying them out again, and some cutting up great quantities of meat. Telemachus saw her long before anyone else did. He was sitting moodily among the suitors, thinking about his brave father, and how he would send them flying out of the house if he were to come to his own again, and be honored as in days gone by. Thus brooding as he sat among them, he caught sight of Athena, and went straight to the gate, for he was vexed that a stranger should be kept waiting for admittance. He took her right hand in his own, and bade her, and gave her her spear. Welcome, said he, to our house, and when you have partaken of food, you shall tell us what you have come for. He led away as he spoke, and Athena followed him. When they were within, he took his spear and set it in the spear stand against a strong sparing post, along with the many other spears of his unhappy father. And he conducted her to a richly decorated seat, under which he threw a cloth of damask. There was a footstool also for her feet, and he set another seat near her for himself, away from the suitors, that she might not be annoyed while eating by their noise and insolence, and that he might ask her more freely about his father. A maidservant then brought them water and beautiful golden ewer, and poured it into a silver basin for them to wash their hands, and she drew a clean table besides them. And other servant brought them bread, and offered them many good things of what there was in the house, the carved refreshment plates of all manner of meats, and set cups of gold by their side. And a manservant brought them wine and poured it out for them. The suitors came in and took their places on the benches and seats. Forthwith the men servants poured water over their hands. Maids went round with bread baskets, pages filled with mixing bowls, and with wine and water, as they laid their hands upon the good things that were before them. As soon as they had enough to eat and drink, they wanted music and dancing, which was the crowning embellishment of a banquet. So a servant brought a lyre to Themis, whom they compelled perforce to sing to them. As soon as he touched his lyre and began to sing, Telemachus spoke low to Athena, with his head close to hers, that no man might hear. I hope, sir, said he, that you will not be offended with what I am going to say. Singing comes cheap to those who do not pay for it, and all this is done at the cost of one whose bones lie rotting in some wilderness or grinding to powder in the surf. If these men were to see my father come back to Ithaca, they would pray for longer legs rather than a longer purse, for money would not serve them. But he, at last, has fallen on ill fate, and even when people do sometimes say that he is coming, we no longer heed them. We shall never see him again. And now, sir, tell me true who you are, and where you come from. Tell me of your town and parents, what manner of ship you came in, how your crew brought you to Ithaca, and at what nation they declare themselves to be, for you cannot have them by land. Tell me as truly, for I know. So know, are you a stranger to this house, or have you been here in my father's time? In the old days we had many visitors, for my father wanted to have much himself. And Athena answered, I will tell you truly, and particularly all about it. I am Menetes, son of Anchialus, and I am a king of the Taphians. I have come here with my ship and crew on a voyage to mail on a foreign tongue, being bound for Temesa, with a cargo of iron, and I shall bring back copper as for my ship that lies over yonder off the open country away from the town, in the harbor of Rapturon, under the wooded mountain near it. Our fathers were friends before us, as old Laertes will tell you. If you will go and ask him, may you say, however, that he will never come to town now, and lives by himself in the country far hardly with an old man to look after him, and gets his dinner from him. But when he comes in tired from pondering about his vineyard, they told me your father was at home again, and that is why I came, but it seems that the gods are still keeping him back, for he is not dead yet, not on the mainland. It is more likely he is on some sea-girt island in the mid-ocean, or a prisoner among savages who are detaining him against his will. I am no prophet, and know very little about omens, but I speak as it is borne in upon me from heaven, and I assure you that he will not be away much longer, for he is a man of such resource that even though he were in chains and iron, he would find some means of getting home again. But tell me and tell me true, can Odysseus really have such a fine-looking fellow for a son?